So like I often do with my videos, I want to sort of go further with what I said in the last video. So I talked about language, and the key insight in that video basically was that when we think that we're the ones using language, language actually uses us. And we have all sorts of unexamined connotations with words that we just kind of let run our life. And so we hold these sort of tensions, and the way we interact with other people is sort of like trying to hold up this image of ourselves. And I used in the video the example of style. So we try hard to be in style. And the etymology of the word, and I find etymology to be an incredible sort of like truth sword to just like cut to the chase of what something really is. If you can find some sort of key in the etymology of something, of what the word really meant before we added all kinds of connotations for the separate self. That style, as in stylist, as in writing, as in being the author of this entire story. So I absolutely love this analogy or metaphor, and it's one of those things that sort of like came to me in an inexplicable way. So we go along with life believing that we're a separate self, believing that we are the character. And non-duality points to the fact that we are not the character. And there's also no exclusion. So it's not that you're not the character, but you are essentially the author. So the character never ever actually existed. And the author writes all kinds of things into the story. They write in boredom, they write in sorrow, they write in happiness, they write in pain and pleasure. And there's a transcendent aspect to it. And even more magical and mysterious is that there are actually no books. And once an author releases a story and the story is read by somebody else, it has its own life and it becomes its own thing. And so in a way, all beloved story characters are the very same thing as any sort of religious deity or ourselves. So essentially, we are a thought. So we exist within thought, and outside of thought, there is no actuality to us, or a more profound, more powerful actuality to us than we can understand. And so, like I said, when we think we are using language, when we think that we are the thinker, thought actually uses us. And this is very intertwined with addiction. So we have like heavy connotations on the word addiction, and what addiction actually is like mistaking the self and then an even more weighty sort of cause of suffering than the self is thinking that happiness is found in circumstances, people and things and objects, that happiness is something outside ourselves. So this creates a self, and this creates the seeking. And then the flip side of the happiness is sometimes we focus on things that we're scared of. We create our own boogeymen, not realizing that we're the author of those boogeymen. We think that we're a character, and so we are fragile and vulnerable to these boogeymen, not quite seeing the power that we have. And it's funny, I just have to interject this personal story. And let me know in the comments if you appreciate these, because sometimes I don't know if people like to hear the personal part, if that helps, or if they'd rather it just be a more removed kind of thing. So I was just really, really, really in the flow, and I was like thinking about devotion, and I have these sort of like devotional patterns, and I had the thought I would throw myself under a bus for, and then I started questioning that, and I was thinking of particularly like Nisargadatta's pointer, I am. I'm like, where is the I am in that? And like instantly a rabbit started to run out in front of my car. I swerved. It went alongside the road, and I instantly realized I am the bus. I am creating these characters outside the story. So, okay, so happiness and addiction. So when we think our happiness lies in something else, then this, and we're a vulnerable self, this perpetuates thought. So I notice this tendency in myself to read news articles and news stories and not be able to stop reading them, and continuing to search things until I found some sort of resolution, or until I found some way that I could protect myself from this thing. And so there's no resolution for that character. It's never going to find its security, and it's never going to find its happiness. And so we have these, when we live in duality, we have these things that are sort of at odds, like our security and our freedom. Do I go on the airplane for this trip even though I'm terrified of airplanes and I might catch Ebola on the airplane? Depending on how many articles you read, the more you know about the world, and the more possibilities of things can happen to you. So thought addiction is primary addiction. So when somebody has a more classic addiction, like to food or drugs or alcohol, they actually are used by the addiction. So they actually have an awareness that this isn't something good for them. They don't actually love alcohol. It's something bad for them. But they have like no sort of control over it. And so sometimes we can end up in that perspective when we get into spirituality and we get into non-duality, and we start to demonize thoughts, and thoughts become our alcohol. But we are a thought, so we're going on this belief that we have a problem with thought, when essentially we are a thought. So we're continually covering over that this is already the freedom to think whatever we want to think. So we keep thinking, we keep overeating, we keep reading, we keep etc., whatever it is, whatever thought addiction presents itself in life to be. And it's when we're willing to keep doing something that feels awful. And this is like the way that you're more likely to lucid dream, when you're having a horrible dream and be like, sort of realize that it's a dream. When things get really bad and the desire to see through it is enough, that's often when we get the glimpse through. But at any point, whenever it becomes a little bit of a problem, we can just drop the thought. We don't need to continually find out that boogeyman we created isn't actually a threat. It isn't actually a threat right now. So we keep doing things. And so language, let's go back to language. You look up the etymology of the word keep, and keep is a very weird word. Like a lot of words that we commonly use. So if something's for keeps, then we get to keep it forever. It's ours. It's our possession. And if we keep doing something, we continually do something. But a keeping over, if you go way back into the history of the word keep, it's a watching over, it's an observation, it's awareness. And we borrow from awareness of what already is completely secure and here and can never be lost, the keeping.